All right, who's ready to talk about the 49ers offensive line, specifically the interior, because it's going to go a long, long way in determining just how far the 49ers can go. If you want to make that more specific, it's going to go a long, long way in determining how good Trey Lance can be here in the 2022 season. And of course, with the quarterback being so correlated to the team's success, that offensive line has to be good for the 49ers. It hasn't been up to par in pass protection at some critical junctures over the past several seasons. And the 49ers, when you talk about concerns about this team, you listen to me talk, you look at my writing, you read my tweets. I think that I mentioned the offensive line more than anybody. I'm a firm believer that to win a Super Bowl, you have to be as good as possible up front. Not enough people talk about it, but we're here to talk about the 49ers offensive line, particularly left guard, center, right guard, three areas of real concern for the 49ers over the past several seasons and heading into 2022. So there you go. State of the 49ers offensive line. Progress in pass protection last season, but more strides are needed. Why don't I just go and break down the performance from last year? Red is bad, blue is good. First column is pass blocking efficiency. That's a score from Pro Football Focus. Second column is run block grade. That's a grade from Pro Football Focus. So again, you want to be darker blue. You don't want to be darker red. And the 49ers played a lot of linemen last season due to injuries. I've got the left tackles at the top. I've got left guard Laken Tomlinson, who was their most durable lineman of the past several seasons, right underneath them. Alex Mack, who was also very durable, but is now retired at center. Brunskill at right guard. And then McGlinchy and Compton, the two right tackles. First thing that you probably noticed is the two guys I called the most durable, Tomlinson and Alex Mack, are no longer 49ers. Tomlinson's now the New York Jets. Alex Mack is somewhere on a boat, retired, travel in Europe. I don't know what he's in. I mean, he got married in Ireland, so the guy's a world traveler. Cal grad. Falcons, Browns alumnus, and obviously now a 49ers alumnus. He is enjoying retirement at age 36. So the 49ers have lost their two most durable offensive linemen, and that's a potential issue, and that's something that we have to talk about. But if you look down here at the chart, you're going to see the red and the blue, and you'll see that the only offensive lineman who was really solidly in the blue for the 49ers horizontally across both pass and run blocking was big Trent Williams on the left side. And Trent Williams was the first offensive lineman to be rated 99 in Madden. New video game here for this 2022-2023 season. Trent Williams, congratulations to him. He's a 99. He deserves it. He's a stud, as you can see here, blue across the board. Tomlinson was also blue across the board, lighter blue in pass blocking, but he's gone. He signed at $13 million plus with the New York Jets. So other than that, the 49ers have a mix of red and blue. It was funny last year before he got hurt, Mike McGlinchy was in the blue and pass blocking and in the red and run blocking, which was a reversal from his previous seasons. Remember that Mike McGlinchy had previously been a really good run blocker, needed some more in pass protection, probably some more weight to anchor in pass protection. Well, he came heavier last year. He was stronger last year in 2021 to begin the season. That probably correlated with the better pass blocking. I don't know if it correlated with the worst run blocking, but then he tore his quad. So we're in wait and see mode on Mike McGlinchy. You had to pick one of the two, though. Blocking, and pass protection, especially in front of a new quarterback like Trey Lance, is going to be really needed for the 49ers this year. They need better right guard play. Brunskill was red across the board. And, of course, you would like better depth play because when Trent Williams couldn't play, you had a lot of red here for Jalen Moore at left tackle and for Colton McKivitz at left tackle. And, it got to the point where Trent Williams played on a high ankle sprain in the NFC Championship game because I think that everybody knew that if he didn't play, whoever played there instead, I know Colton McKivitz did okay in week 18, but he still gave up 5 pressures. Whoever fills in for Trent Williams, probably not going to be good enough to win huge games. And that's the case for most teams, right? If you're missing your star left tackle, you're probably going to be in some level of trouble. Well, it just underscores the importance of Trent Williams staying healthy. Anyway, those were the metrics last year. We'll talk a little bit more about them as we go through the bullet points of the competition during camp, or the competitions, maybe I should speak in plural, along the offensive line for the 49ers. All right, so first things first, there is immense pressure on Aaron Banks at left guard. Laken Tomlinson only missed a snap or maybe 2 snaps over several seasons with the 49ers, and he did so because his shoe came untied. He had a shoe malfunction, and he couldn't get it tied right away. So he had to come out of the game for I think it was 2 snaps that he missed out of thousands ever since they picked him up in a trade in 2017. So, yes, Laken Tomlinson did have some deficiencies in his game. In fact, it was Quinn Williams who beat Laken Tomlinson in 2020, week 2 against the New York Jets on the play that Jimmy Garoppolo initially got hurt that season. That was the high ankle sprain, and Laken Tomlinson allowed the pressure. His run blocking was better than his pass blocking for the 49ers. But this is all relative, right? And you saw the chart. Laken Tomlinson was still better than everybody but Trent Williams as far as consistency along that offensive line in 2021. And he was more durable than any other 49ers offensive lineman not named Alex Mack. For season after season, you can count on Laken Tomlinson to be at that left guard spot. But the 49ers did not re-sign him. He went for $13 million per year to the Jets. And the 49ers now need Aaron Banks to step into that left guard role. They need him to be as dependable as Laken Tomlinson. And, if you're the 49ers, you hope that he pushes that ceiling a little bit further. Tomlinson, they traded for him. He was a former first-round draft pick out of Duke a long time ago, but they got him off the scrap heap from the Detroit Lions, where Martin Mayhew, former 49ers assistant GM, was the GM when Tomlinson was picked. It didn't take him a lot. It was like a 5th-round pick, right, way back in 2017. And they rehabilitated him into a good player at left guard. Well, Aaron Banks was a 2nd-round pick in 2021. You need your 2nd-round picks to produce. And the plan when they did pick Aaron Banks was for him to succeed Laken Tomlinson. So there's immense pressure on Aaron Banks to get the job done at left guard. Again, by getting the job done, 49ers need to reprise this. There's blue across the board for Tomlinson. Banks is a big guard, no question about it. 49ers move into more of an inside power-based run scheme this year. It'll be more multiple for sure. So you hope that Aaron Banks can maul some people in there, but you also hope that he's reworked his body enough to be able to deftly carry that extra weight, that 325, 330 pounds, to be able to block an outside zone. And then he's got to anchor, right? Because he's working against some of the best defensive tackles in football in the NFC West, including the best player in football in Aaron Donald. Donald's going to be working a lot against left guard, also against right guard. He moves all around the defensive line. But if you can't block or at least slow Aaron Donald down, you're probably not going to win the NFC West or beat the Rams all too many times. And as you know, the Rams were the team that stood in the 49ers' way of the Super Bowl last season. So pressure on Aaron Banks is very, very big. Now, talk about right guard. Now, I don't even consider left guard much of a competition. Aaron Banks is the odds-on favorite to start for the 49ers at that position. But right guard, that might be a little bit more open. I would say that Daniel Brunskill is the heavy favorite to retain his position as the 49ers starting right guard, but I have to go back to this chart. Right guard play for the 49ers has been subpar for years. Brunskill was in the red in pass blocking efficiency and in run block grade, although he was a little bit better in that ground game. But still, the weakness of this 49ers offensive line, whether it be Mike Person back to that 2019 season or Daniel Brunskill last year, has consistently come at right guard. Now, you guys know me. I think Brunskill is a very, very valuable player. His best football for the 49ers, though, has come as a swing tackle, and he did a good job filling in when they needed him at center in 2020. Right guard is actually his least natural position, but that's the place where he's had to start for the 49ers. What if Jalen Moore, 2nd-year player now, out of Western Michigan, saw some spot action last year at the tackle positions? What if Jalen Moore can challenge Daniel Brunskill at guard this year? That's, I think, would be crucial for the 49ers. And, I don't expect Jalen Moore to win this battle at right guard, but here's why it's so important. Because if Moore does at least push Daniel Brunskill for the right guard spot, it will signify that the 49ers have at least a modicum of depth along their offensive line. These seasons are absolute marathons. The 49ers last year played 20 games. 12 of them came on the road. No team's ever played that many road games. To get through that sort of marathon, you need depth along the offensive line. We saw Trent Williams hobbling through a high ankle sprain at SoFi Stadium against the Rams in the NFC Championship. It's just not going to work if you don't have quality depth to be able to last you the marathon. And I thought last season the 49ers might have had 6 decent enough offensive linemen. Tom Compton did a really good job in the run game, replacing Mike McGlinchy. But to win a Super Bowl, you probably need 7, maybe even 8. You need to find a way to develop those lower round picks, those, free agents that aren't, quite prized assets on your team. You need to be able to find a way to develop them into something that's truly sustainable past linemen 1 through 5. And if Jalen Moore pushes Daniel Brunskill in training camp, well, then you can count on Jalen Moore to be a guy that could step in at guard or even step in at tackle, since that's where he stepped in last year. To me, that's just symbolic of the type of depth that the 49ers have. You need guys pushing your weakest position during training camp. And if that weakest position is right guard, Daniel Brunskill cannot be a shoo-in. Because if he is, then the 49ers aren't Super Bowl contenders. To be a true contender, that O-line depth needs to be there, which is why I mentioned Jalen Moore at that right guard spot. Mike McGlinchy and Trent Williams must come through too. Now, last year, McGlinchy was good to start the season in pass protection. Then he tore his quad against Arizona in week 9. Trent Williams, obviously awesome. One of the best players in football, but he did fight through some injuries. He's not getting any younger. Played that NFC title game on a high ankle sprain. In retrospect, he actually admitted that he probably shouldn't have played that NFC title game on a high ankle sprain, but hindsight's 2020, right? I think that's what Trent said when he acknowledged that. So it's key that Williams, with as much as he's being paid, highest paid tackle in football, and Mike McGlinchy playing on that 50-year option this year, he's playing in a contract year. It's absolutely imperative that both of these guys show up, stay consistently healthy, and deliver at the tackle positions. Otherwise, you're getting Trey Lance just creamed from either side. Blind side on Trent Williams' side, and sometimes pressure from right tackles even worse, because some of the best rushers in the game are going to come over Mike McGlinchy's side. So big pressure on both 49ers tackles, although we can surmise that they're going to be starting for the 49ers this season. Everything that I just talked about does not matter if the 49ers cannot establish stability at center. They had so much trouble establishing stability at center before last season. In 2020, that was one of the things that derailed the year. Remember, they had a chance to claw back into contention at Seattle. I think it was week 10 of that 2020 season. Maybe it was week 8. It was right about halfway through. Boy, did that go poorly. Hronis Grasu, the fourth option at center, started for the 49ers, and the Seahawks just pummeled them with A-gap after A-gap after A-gap blitz. And the 49ers couldn't pick it up. It was too discombobulated. The center is the nerve system. It's the brain of that offensive line. And if he's not calling it out correctly, and that's tough when you're down in the squat, you're not seeing the field from your normal eye vision of 6 feet above the ground. You're seeing it down 2 feet above the ground. You have to recognize so much. You have to see through that crowd. You have to be able to diagnose the safety rotations. If you're not ready for a full plate at center cerebrally and physically, because Aaron Donald's going to line up against you sometimes, well, then the whole offense can kind of crumple on itself like a house of cards. And that happened to the 49ers in 2020 when Weston Richburg got hurt, when Ben Garland got hurt, when they had to start Hronis Grasu at center. Well, they didn't have that problem in 2021 because Alex Mack brought tremendous stability to the position. But here in 2022, Mack is retired. So is Jake Brendel the man for the job? Well, that's the question. He had excellent speed metrics, burst metrics coming out of UCLA in 2016. He hasn't had a chance to start yet, though. So we'll see if he could still move as well. And then B, when you can move that well, can you also anchor in pass protection? Because the opponents, they're going to test you out in this league. And if Brendel starts underwhelming the 49ers in training camp, they obviously can have some contingency plans. They might go after a free agent like J.C. Trettor, who's still available, who's played good football for the Browns over the past several seasons, but might have some knee issues. That could be a desperation option. But for now, the 49ers would like the in-house option, and that's Jake Brendel. Because remember, as the backup center last year to Mack, Jake Brendel snapped to the backup quarterback, Trey Lance. So there's already cohesion there. The 49ers like to promote from within. But I can't emphasize enough how big of a domino effect is at stake right here. If center doesn't get it done, the rest of the positions are going to be in disarray. It doesn't matter how good Trent Williams is. So it's so important that the 49ers get center right. And of course, they have to get those other spots right as well, because the interior offensive line has not been good in recent years. Why don't we take a quick look at the depth chart to discuss some of the rookies and how they might compete when we talk about some of these battles. The depth chart, of course, is up on my Google Doc. I always make it wider when I make the depth chart, and we could take a look at the offensive line. I've got Williams at left tackle, Banks left guard, Brendel center, Brunskill right guard, McGlinchy right tackle. And that is your projected starting 49ers offensive line left to right. As far as players I project to make the 53, Colton McKivitz, who filled in for Trent Williams at left tackle against the Rams in week 18 last year. I have him as the first swing tackle because I think the two rookies that the 49ers drafted, Spencer Burford and Nick Zakelj, I project them as guard depth. They're going to be developing as guard depth with Skule potentially having center flexibility moving into the future. So they'll be working on him in that regard. Jalen Moore, meanwhile, played swing tackle last year out of Western Michigan, though he's not quite tall enough to be your prototypical NFL swing tackle or tackle general. He's 6'4", so I think they want him more at guard. So I have more competing with Daniel Brunskill at right guard. Of course, you got some other names, a couple really, really intriguing undrafted free agents, and Jason Poe, who is the shortest offensive lineman in the NFL, but one of the strongest already coming out of Mercer there. I mean, Jason Poe is a bowling ball, and Jason Poe might be used in special packages if he somehow makes this 49ers team. That might be his ticket to making this 49ers team, but they're going to also work him out at center, try to teach him the ropes. He's just going to be a longer developmental project. Donovan West, a much more conventional short-term developmental project out of ASU. He could also be a center waiting in the wings. You have Keaton Sutherland. He could be center depth. He played with the Bengals last year. He's taken some snaps, started a couple games in the NFL at center. Then you have Sam Schluter, who's a developmental tackle from Minnesota. So the big question is the depth there for this 49ers offensive line to, have a legitimate shot to run through this marathon? And to that, I say, I don't know. We'll see. They added bodies. They spent this offseason active along the front of the offensive line. But now Chris Furster, the O-line coach, has to get to work. And we'll see during training camp if some of these competitions, Aaron Banks, shoe in at left guard, but of course he's got to compete against those defensive linemen. Jake Brendel, can he hold off Keaton Sutherland and those guys at center? Who's going to be right guard? Daniel Brunskill, Jalen Moore, is he going to make a move? These competitions are going to form our initial impression of the 49ers offensive line, not just through the top five and the pass protection improvement that's needed there, but through the depth of that whole unit to survive this lengthy NFL season. All right, I'm going to answer a few questions. Everybody like the video, subscribe to the channel. By the way, happy Friday, and let's talk. I'm popping open some of these questions. Let's check it out. Hit that like button for the video to blow up. Yeah, seriously, right now. If you're here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Somebody told me the other day, I was having lunch with one of my friends. He said he was watching a YouTube show where they put up on the screen, he had a list of there's some app you can get that shows you a list of viewers and a list of viewers who haven't subscribed yet. And he said that the YouTube content creator that had put this video up there was shaming the people that were watching but hadn't subscribed. I don't know if I'm going to take it to that length or those lengths, but if you haven't subscribed and you are watching, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. We're going to go deeper here with the 49ers analysis than anywhere else on YouTube. Look, I even repeated the same message. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. All right, let's scroll down. Any more questions about the offensive line? Those are going to be the more important ones here as far as the order of business. AJ Silva says there have to be more questions at the offensive line than anywhere else, and that's with Trent Williams on the line. I think you're right. I think that's what I've been repeating all offseason. I think Brunskill or Brendel would be the best veteran with experience for the center position. Yes, and I don't think the 49ers want to interrupt too many positions. That's why Brunskill's the favorite right guard, making Brendel the favorite at center, plus the continuity that Brendel has snapping to Trey Lance makes him the favorite. The 49ers want in-house continuity if they can get it. It's obviously also more economical, but that's just how they operate as a franchise. So Jake Brendel is the favorite at center. If stuff blows up, though, if he can't anchor in pass protection, maybe you do take a look at free agent J.C. Trettor. Do you think Spencer Burford will start this year? Maybe down the stretch. I mean, he mauled people at UTSA, but that was also at UTSA. So he's still got some work to do. I think the 49ers love him as a guard prospect, but I don't think he's going to start at the beginning of the season. What's up with Justin Skule? He's back. Tore his ACL during the last offseason program, so he missed all of 2022. He's back. We'll see how he does. If he impresses in training camp, he's a guy with both guard tackle versatility. David, do you know if McGlinchy will be playing heavier this year than last year? Can you talk about how that may or may not fit with an offense more suited for Trey? It looks like McGlinchy is right around 320 pounds, which is about the same as last year. He was light in 2020, but he bulked up for 2021. That led to good results in pass protection, but then he tore his quad. So I think McGlinchy probably wants to hit that same weight happy zone here in 2022, and I think he's right around there based on one of those videos I saw where he stepped on a scale during his rehab process. So McGlinchy apparently feels good. We will now see how that translates to his on-field play coming off the torn quad. Now, with Trey Lance, first and foremost, you're going to want good pass protection. That's so important for a young quarterback. So, I mean, that's why McGlinchy's been working on the pass protection. That's why he's been trying to get heavier. You're also trying to play a balancing act, right? You want to anchor, but you also want to get out in space. And if the 49ers are going to run some outside zone, if Trey Lance is going to take off a few times, well, you want McGlinchy to be able to move as well as possible in run blocking. But I think we saw something that was approaching the ideal version of McGlinchy throughout the first few games of last season. Then he got hurt. So I think he's back at that weight to answer your question, and we'll see what happens next. Andrew predicts 3 Pro Bowlers from the 49ers offensive line this season. If that happens, the 49ers will be Super Bowl champions. They will be raising the Lombardi trophy, not me, the actual trophy at the end of the season. If they have 3 Pro Bowlers up front, it's over. Turn off the lights, go home, pack it up. It's done. That would be great news for the 49ers. Just don't know how realistic that is. Given the questions at guard, wouldn't Trettor make sense for center? Yeah, if Jake Brendel doesn't make sense. Now, remember, Jake Brendel's taken every single snap, essentially, from Trey Lance. That would be funny if Trey Lance were the center and Jake Brendel was the quarterback. That's a funny image in my head now. Trey Lance has taken essentially every one of his practice snaps from Jake Brendel. Now, the weeks where Lance started because Jimmy was hurt, yes, Trey Lance took his snaps from Alex Mack. But Brendel and Trey Lance have chemistry. So if you think Brendel could do the job, I think he moves better than J.C. Trettor. And if you think he can anchor well enough in pass protection at 302, 304 pounds, and if you think that he knows the offense well enough, there's no reason to go out and get J.C. Trettor. But if you don't think that Jake Brendel can do that, and if training camp starts to show you that he can't, well, then you think about rolling the dice on J.C. Trettor. Here are the potential downsides for that. J.C. is probably going to cost a little bit of money. He probably wants to get paid because he's been a good center for the Cleveland Browns over the past few years. He missed a ton of practice time last year due to knee issues. Now, to his credit, J.C. Trettor didn't miss a single game in 5 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, but he missed a lot of practice time last year. And the 49ers, in a developmental year, obviously, for Trey Lance, are going to want as much time for their young quarterback with his starting center for that quarterback-center cohesion in practice as possible. So I think Trettor is, I don't want to say last resort, but I think that's more of an emergency option, whereas the 49ers would like Jake Brendel to work out. All right, 49 Lakers. If you're not subscribed, you should be ashamed of yourself. Don't worry, David. I'll say it. Hell yeah. Thanks, man. Really appreciate 49 Lakers. Very common viewer. So you should be ashamed of yourself if you're not subscribed. I'm talking to whoever isn't subscribed. But anyway, do it because the season's about to start. It's about to get really fun. We're about to have a lot of content. It'll be good. I'll answer a few more questions here. David, with Lance taking over, should the 49ers get another solid veteran to protect Lance? I mean, that's great, but who's still out there? We've talked about J.C. Trettor and the potential pluses and minuses there. That might be the position where you do it, but it's not like you got really good veteran offensive linemen out there for the picking at this point of the offseason. Just, those guys are valuable, and they're valuable for a reason. Weren't the 49ers supposed to be kicking the tires of a free agent offensive lineman named Billy Price, I think you're saying? No, don't believe every single rumor that you see on Twitter. Billy Price was a first-round pick a few years ago, 2018, out of Ohio State. Hasn't been really good in the NFL. If they do pick him up because he's available, well, I mean, he'll compete. Maybe Chris Furster, 49ers offensive line coach, gets something out of him, but you can't really count on a lot from a player who hasn't done all too much, moved the needle all too much in 4 seasons in the NFL. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions here. And I think I answered all of them fairly well. Hopefully 49ers fans are able to reconcile. The 49ers can and likely will allow more sacks and pressures because Lance will hold the ball longer. That doesn't mean that the line is worse. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy had an exceptionally quick release, still has an exceptionally quick release. Probably won't be seeing it in games of the 49ers this year, but, never say never. It's one of those things that Jimmy's still on this roster right now. I think they're seeing him as an insurance option while they shop him for this trade, and then they meet the deadline on August 30th, and they probably would have to release him by then. I'll talk about that in a different video. But, one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo is he got rid of the ball quick. I mean, Kyle Shanahan called him a human jugs machine back in 2017 after that game against Jacksonville. And he's a veteran too. So, I mean, he could sense the rush and he gets rid of the football. Trey Lance is going to hold on to it a little bit longer. He's not a veteran. The release is a little bit slower. He might want to, hang in the pocket a little bit longer and then buy some time with his legs because that is one of his gifts. There will be growing pains and there will be stylistic differences moving to Trey Lance. And I think it is really important to keep that in mind. And that's a good point from John. Thank you, John. Michael, David, if Jimmy G goes to Cleveland, I'm calling it now. The Lance Jimmy Super Bowl. Why don't we end with that? What a great thing to think about. Jimmy Garoppolo helming the Cleveland Browns, who for some reason wear orange helmets. Can somebody explain to me why the Cleveland Browns have solid orange helmets? That's bugged me ever since I was like 3. I will always look at the Cleveland Browns logo, and then I'd see their helmets. It's like, well, you're actually, I get it. A brown is a dog, but you're named after color. At least if your helmet's going to be a single color, then it should be the same color as your name, right? Their helmets should be brown is what I'm saying. But anyway, Jimmy Garoppolo with those orange helmets and Trey Lance helming the 49ers, obviously wearing a gold helmet in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that would be fun. That would give us something to write about. That's for sure. It'd give us something to talk about on the channel. So just in case that happens a few months from now, make sure you subscribe right now, like the video, get on board. Everybody take care. Have a great Friday evening. You know what's coming to this weekend? I'm going to do a weekend 49ers mega Q&A. So line up with your questions. We're going to talk about a lot of this stuff ahead of training camp. I promise to get you more ready for camp than anyone else. All right, everybody take care.